After retirement, he couldn't stand staying at home. At 55 years old, after a 30-year police career, he still wanted to feel useful. A simple night watchman job was found. The neighborhood residents saw him only as an elderly guard. But that night, the young criminals he encountered on the street would learn what Commissioner Martinez could still do. What city are you watching this video from today? If you love stories of silent heroes and unexpected justice, don't forget to subscribe to our Untold Hero Stories channel. Riverside neighborhood in the southern part of Phoenix was a quiet area where middle-income families lived. Small shops, park areas, clean streets, and private security guards for safety. The neighborhood residents lived securely. Children could play in the streets, and elderly people joined evening walks. 55-year-old David Martinez worked as a night watchman in the neighborhood. He was a medium-built, fit man with dark gray pants. Every night he wore the same navy blue uniform, carrying a flashlight, radio, and small notebook. He would quietly walk through the streets, check houses, and observe suspicious activities. The neighborhood residents knew David, but there wasn't much information about who he was. They knew him as Night Watchman David. Good man, takes people seriously. But no one had asked about his past, and he hadn't told anyone. David Martinez's story was actually much more complex. He served in the Phoenix Police Department from 1985 to 2015. He worked in various ranks for 30 years, eventually becoming commissioner. Organized crimes, gangs, murder cases, these were daily experiences. When he retired, he was given a golden watch and had his farewell party. But David couldn't sit at home. His wife, Maria, had noticed his restlessness. "David, you weren't created to sit idle," she had said. "Do something. Feel useful." David's children lived in other cities. He had no grandchildren. He didn't have many hobbies. But protecting people had been his lifestyle for 30 years. Therefore, he searched for a simple job: security, guard duty, protection. The night watchman position in Riverside neighborhood seemed perfect. No excessive stress, no excessive responsibility, just living at home and providing security. When David applied, he only mentioned being a retired police officer. He didn't hide his commissioner background, but he also didn't specifically emphasize his qualifications. Neighborhood Association President Robert Chen was pleased when he hired David. "I hired an experienced police officer," he had thought. "Our security will increase." But he had no complete idea about how experienced David was. On David's first night at work, he carefully examined the neighborhood. Every street, every corner, every potential hiding place. This was a skill remaining from police training. He identified areas with crime potential in the neighborhood, escape routes, and security vulnerabilities. In the first week, David only did routine patrols. He worked from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Neighborhood residents noticed him and greeted him. "They said the night watchman is very careful," they said. "He goes everywhere." But what David did wasn't just walking around. With his 30 years of police experience, he could see differences in details that normal people couldn't. Which houses had lights on until late hours? Which vehicles were foreign to the neighborhood? Which people hung around the streets at night? In the second week, David experienced his first small incident. At 1:30 a.m., 3 young people were running around the neighborhood. They were making a lot of noise and entering house gardens. David approached them. "Kids, what are you doing here at this hour?" The young people looked at David. They saw an elderly guard. "We're just walking around," said one. "This isn't the time for walking around. Go to your homes." The young people started laughing. "Who are you to give us orders?" David remained calm. "I'm the security officer of this neighborhood. I don't want to disturb you. I just ask for respect." "What happens if we don't?" asked the oldest one. David's police instincts kicked in. These weren't just mischievous kids. There was aggression in their behavior. "Then I'll have to call the police," he said calmly. "Police?" They laughed. "You're just a guard." David didn't want to argue further. He took out his radio and called the police. "Noise problem in Riverside neighborhood. 3 young people." The young people, seeing David's seriousness, ran away. The police arrived 10 minutes later. David briefly explained. The police officer was surprised. "You made very detailed observations." "Are you a former police officer?" "Retired," David answered briefly. The next day, the neighborhood residents were satisfied with David's performance. "They said the night watchman is really good," they said. "He drove away the troublesome youth." But David knew this incident wasn't a one-time thing. His 30 years of experience told him, these people will come back, and maybe they'll create more problems. In the 3rd week, David's suspicions were confirmed. The same 3 young people came, this time at a later hour. They had been drinking beer and were louder. When they saw David, they laughed mockingly. "Look, guard uncle is here again." David approached them. "We talked before. Don't be here at this time." "Why? Do these streets belong to you?" This time, David used a different tone. His 30-year commissioner authority was expressed as follows: "Go to your homes. This is my final warning." The authoritative power in his voice surprised them. "What does this guard think he is?" "I'm just doing my job," David replied. "But if you disturb the peace of this neighborhood, you'll face consequences." The young people behaved more aggressively this time. "Old man, you can't scare us." David remained calm, but his body language changed. He was on police alert. "I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just protecting the neighborhood." One of the young people moved even closer to David. "You're just a guard. You can't do anything to us." David, with 30 years of experience, understood that the situation could escalate. These young people were testing him. If he backed down this time, they could become even bolder. "Kids, I'm warning you for the last time. Leave." "What if we don't?" David took a deep breath. "Then I'll have to speak differently." The young people laughed, but the seriousness in David's eyes had disturbed them. Finally, they left grumbling. David took out his radio and recorded in the neighborhood security logs. Same 3 young people, second warning given, observed increase in aggressive behavior. Where is security? David spoke with Neighborhood Association President Robert Chen. "Mr. Chen, I need to talk about these incidents. The same group is acting up." "What do you suggest, David?" "If you allow me, I can apply a more active approach." "David, you're a watchman. You're not a police officer." David paused for a moment. Should he tell the truth? "Mr. Chen, I have police experience. I know how to handle these types of situations." "How much experience?" 30 years. Robert was surprised. 30 years? "What rank did you retire at?" "Commissioner." Robert's mouth dropped open. "Commissioner? Why are you working as a watchman here?" David approached. "Because I still want to protect people. Retirement can't stop me." That night, David applied a different strategy. He waited for the young people to come. They arrived at 1:15 a.m. This time, they were more crowded. 5 people. David observed them. They had spray paints and sticks in their hands. This was no longer simple vandalism. It was an organized action. The young people were about to start making graffiti. David approached, but this time from a different position. "Stop!" His voice was authoritative and confident. "Who's that?" they whispered. The flashlight illuminated them. Now David wasn't just being watched. "I'm Commissioner David Martinez. You will stop these actions. Now." The young people were surprised. "Commissioner? I served 30 years in the Phoenix Police Department. What you're doing is child's play for me." The leader gathered his courage. You're retired now. You can't do anything to us. David approached calmly. His 30 years of experience showed through his body language. Look, kid, I can arrest you and your friends right now. Vandalism, damaging public property, disturbing the peace. You're not a police officer, shouted another. David took out his retired police badge from his pocket. Retired police officers can also make citizens' arrests. I can hold you until the police arrive. The young people looked at each other. This guard was really different. Now I'm offering you a choice, David continued. Either you stop appearing in this neighborhood, or the police will come and arrest you. Bluff. David took out his radio. I'm calling Phoenix PD, 5 suspects for vandalism charges. The young people started to panic. David's seriousness had affected them. Okay, we're leaving. That's not enough, said David. Don't come to this neighborhood again. If I see you, I'll have you arrested directly. The young people left as if fleeing. David calmly turned off his radio. The next morning, the neighborhood residents were talking about the previous night's events. Someone had introduced David as a commissioner. The news spread quickly. Our night watchman is a former commissioner. He worked 30 years in the police force. That's why he was so effective. When David came to work, the neighborhood residents looked at him with different eyes. Now he wasn't just a night watchman, but a symbol had emerged. Robert Chen approached David. David, why didn't you tell us before? I'm just doing guard duty here. But you're a commissioner. I'm a retired commissioner, David corrected. Now I'm a night watchman. This is also an honorable job. That week, other problems arose in the neighborhood. Elderly Mrs. Rodriguez's house had been burglarized. Some silver items and money had been stolen. David looked at the incident with professional eyes. The window is broken, but the glass pieces are outside. It was broken from inside. What does this mean? Asked Robert. There was no forced entry. The door was opened. Then the window was broken to make it look like a forced entry. So? Someone Mrs. Rodriguez knows robbed her. David's analysis impressed the police. Experience from similar cases in the past helped interpret the clues. A week later, David's suspicions were confirmed. Mrs. Rodriguez's nephew was arrested. David's analysis had directed the investigation in the right direction. The neighborhood residents now had even more respect for David. Commissioner Martinez is staying on the ground. But David just continued to stay humble. I'm doing my job. A month later, a more serious incident occurred in the neighborhood. At 2 a.m., there was an armed robbery. David heard the alarm and immediately ran. There were 2 masked men at the scene. He hadn't carried a weapon for 30 years. David observed from a safe distance. The attackers exited and started to flee after stealing from the store. At this point, David had to make a decision. Should he intervene or just observe? Commissioner training told him, put civilian life first, don't take unnecessary risks. But at the same time, letting criminals escape wasn't right either. David took out his radio and called the police. Armed robbery at Riverside Market. 2 suspects fleeing north. One has a weapon. Then he started following the attackers. From a safe distance, he was reporting their routes to the police. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Thanks to David's information, the attackers were caught 2 blocks away. The police officer thanked David. Your information was perfect. Are you a former police officer? Retired commissioner, David answered humbly. Commissioner? In that case, why didn't you intervene? David explained. Because I'm no longer a commissioner. I'm doing night watchman duty. My job is to observe and report. This incident further increased David's reputation in the neighborhood. Now he wasn't just seen as a guard, but as a protector, advisor, and security expert. Elderly residents consulted him. Commissioner Martinez, what can we do for our home security? Parents showed him as an example to their children. Be brave like Commissioner Martinez. David received this attention modestly. I'm just doing my job. I want to protect my neighborhood. One day, his old police friend, Captain Johnson, came to visit him. David, I didn't expect to see you here. Hello, Johnson. How are you? Good, but what are you doing here? Night watchman duty, David explained. Yes, retirement couldn't stop me. But you were a commissioner. You could come back, work as a consultant. David looked around. He thought of his neighborhood, the people he protected. No, Johnson, I belong here. Why? Because here I serve people directly. No bureaucracy, no politics, just protection. Johnson was amazed. You were always different, David, but what matters is that you're happy. That evening, as David went home, neighborhood residents greeted him with respect. Children shouted, Commissioner Martinez. Elderly people bowed their heads respectfully. Maria was waiting for David's arrival home. How was your day? Good. The neighborhood is safe. Are you happy, David? David thought. For 30 years he had worked for big cases, media arrests, promotions, but the satisfaction he felt now was different from all of that. Yes, Maria, very happy. Why? Because this is real police work, protecting people, providing security, giving peace. Months passed. David had now become an indispensable part of Riverside neighborhood. He wasn't just a night watchman, but a security advisor, problem solver, and protective figure. He was training young police officers how to ensure street security, how to detect suspicious activities. 30 years of experience was being shared with the new generation. One day at a neighborhood meeting, Robert Chen spoke up. Friends, I want to thank Commissioner Martinez. He's not just a night watchman by himself, but our neighborhood's guardian angel. Everyone applauded. David came out embarrassed. Thank you, but I'm just doing my job. No, said elderly Mrs. Rodriguez. You're doing much more than that. You're our security. David was moved. I'm glad to be here. This neighborhood is now my family. That night, as David patrolled, he thought about his past. 30 years of commissioner career, great achievements, important roles. But the peace and satisfaction he felt now was more valuable than all of those. Because here, he was protecting people every night. They knew he was there when they woke up in the morning. David Martinez, retired commissioner, was now the protector of Riverside neighborhood. And he was proud of both. Because true service doesn't lie in the uniform, but in the heart. David's heart always continued to be protective. And the neighborhood residents knew this. Every night when they saw the rays of David's flashlight, they felt safe. What city are you watching this video from? Write in the comments. And if you want more such untold hero stories to continue, don't forget to subscribe to the Untold Hero Stories channel. Because every silent protector has a story waiting to be told.